Hello everyone. Today I wanted to go over different types of levels. So the first one we're going to jump into is linear. So linear is when you have a starting point and then you go through a set path which nothing changes based off of wherever you go, and it always ends at the end point. So your story is set up and it is designed to perfectly go from beginning to end, and no matter what you do in between, it doesn't change anything. So with that, linear is probably the most simple style of level design, but that doesn't mean it can't be extremely intricate, because we could take this simple path and make it go up, make it go down, and really take the player through a long story, even with a set path and everything determined before they ever touch the game. The next one we're going to go over is the one that's mostly for multiplayer. It's used in other systems too, but this one's most well known as in multiplayer. This one is network. So what a network is it's when every single area is able to get to the other one. There may be set paths you have to go through to get to certain spots, but each area has multiple entrances. Some don't have straight entrances right away. But if we look around on here, we'll come in here. There's 3 entrances, and this is an extremely important and common tool in level design, especially when doing networking for battles like that, is you want 3 entrances. So that way you can really control how the battle flows and let the combat keep going and really keep your players interested. So yeah, networking is when there's multiple areas all connected together through a network. So if we added a second floor, we would have maybe 2 or 3 different staircases. So that way the top doesn't only have one way up to it, but it has multiple ways to get up to the top, and it all really connects together in the end. All right, so the next one I would like to go over is parallel. So parallel level design is when you take the idea of a linear path and you make multiple paths. So if I were to start the player right here, which is the plan on this level, and then they've got 3 different paths they can take. Parallel can also be used through like games like Dark Souls. That's a very important one that uses parallel. So with parallel, I could go down this path and eventually I would end up at the end. I could go down the other path, eventually I would end up at the end, and the middle path, I could eventually end up at the end. The middle path, I can somewhat branch over and get over to the right path, but all in all, that eventually leads me back to this end area, and I would come over here, and here's the little exit. So the thing about parallel is you could take all 3 paths separately. You'll still end up at the same spot, but choosing your path differently changes the way the game lays out. It adds replayability, so if you take the right path and you end up over here and you find the exit, you can take the center path. You will also end up at the exit, but it'll be a different playthrough. If you take the left path, it'll go through, and there's a whole much harder puzzle over here. So you go in, you come up, and you go all the way around, and come down, and you go through, and you come out at the end. The others are simple, so like the way it is risk versus reward. You give the player multiple options, and they can choose to do the harder option, which would be the one on the far left, and they get more reward for it. Or if they don't want to do hard difficulty stuff, they can go to the right, and it's just a simple 2 rooms. And then the middle would represent medium. You go through, there's a door, there's a room, then there's a big old set of rooms that connect through and lead all the way through and go to the end. This kind of level design is very powerful because you can use it for things like Dark Souls as well, where you can go start doing an area, and then if you don't want to finish that area, like in Elden Ring, you can go back and go fight a different boss, and this area is still saved, and the other one is started, and they're going parallel to each other, but you can progress them separately, however you want. So I built this as a simplified idea, so we can go through the middle, and if we decide we want to change, instead of going through the middle, we can go to the right from in there. And the left side's difficult because it's on its own. It kind of is a linear, but because the other 2 can be used to get to that same exit, And if I lock this door and this door, if I go through the right, I'll complete it. And then if I go through the middle, I can choose to go right or go down the center. And judging on what I choose, if I get over here, the door behind me could lock. And now I go through and I get to the end, and so on and so forth. So then we would have 3 significant paths we could take. We could technically take 4, because if we take the center, we can go to the right. So now we've changed from just going straight to the right, taking that turn. We can take the center, go to the right, end up in that room, or go left and continue the center path. And that is where it kind of parallels out, kind of like a branching set that all leads to the same connecting point at the end. So another one I wanted to go over would be the next one of wide linear. So wide linear takes linear and it kind of makes it a bit more advanced. So if I go through here, I look over here, there's a, oh, apparently the little hole got deleted. But over here, there's a little path, and maybe there's a collectible over there. It doesn't affect the gameplay or the level, really. So I go over there, I have a little collectible I can find. Cool, gave me something to explore. I go up here. Oh, somehow that got sealed. And then I come in here, and it leads over here. I see a little room in here. Maybe I can collect something for it. Cool, and I come down here, and I'm in a fight. And over here, you have this path as well, which comes through the same little building. It's just a slightly different path. You come through, and they both end up being pretty much the exact same path connected together. But it gives a lot more to explore. Up here, there's this room. Down here, there's multiple rooms. There could be a desk over here that you can collect something from. Over here, there's a window that shows there's the door. More little areas set up. And when you come on through, both paths are connected together. You can take it a step further and have a little staircase in the center of there. It's still just one linear path, but it allows you to kind of explore the area a lot more rather than just go straight through from beginning to end. This allows the player to have a lot more of an environment to enjoy, really get in depth and get immersed into your game. So just allowing this little bit, it's still linear. It all just goes through, takes the almost the exact same path all the way through. And even then, if I go up here, it doesn't affect anything. I'm still doing the same stuff, and it's all just leading right back here. Nothing's changing, whether I take the top or the bottom path, just what I'm seeing. So it really just gives the player that idea of choice without choice. And I would say that it's a bit more fun than just a blank linear, unless you're trying to be heavily story driven. If you're trying to be heavily story driven and that's what you're trying to sell, that's rather important. This kind of level would also work if I remove this little hole right here and just made it a room connected. It would also work for a corridor level. So corridor levels, I would go through a cutscene, something's happening, and I end up in here, and I have to fight through this entire highly compact area, fighting to the end, and usually a linear path, but it doesn't exactly have to be. And once I'm done fighting, I can come back and I can explore up here, keep fighting, and once I'm done, I get to the end as well. So this can work as either, with this little path over here, it's more of a wide linear, but with this set path like this, it works well as a corridor as well. And then one of my favorites is hub and spoke. So hub and spoke is you have a main starting area. So this little area I set up as a whole little game as an example for it. So with hub and spoke, we have the players start right here, and they have a set goal. The TV remote's dead. They need a battery. So we have the battery up here. But the player, if we hit play, has to go through a set of stuff in order to be able to access that battery. They can't just run up and grab it real quick. So if I want to get that battery, maybe I can check this door to get over there. Nope, door's locked. Okay. So I see multiple doors. I can try that one. I know it's locked because I made the level. But I can come over here and test this one. It seems to open. I can come in here. This door is actually supposed to be locked, so imagine that door is locked. But then I can come down here. Test this out. Locked as well. Then I noticed that this little light's over here is telling me, okay, so this door is a little different than the rest. Can open it up, and it leads me on through. It feels somewhat linear, but it's not. So I can come over here, and I see the little desk over here. It has the key on it, so once I collect it, I now have the key. And once I've finished this little area, I can open up that door, which was supposed to be locked. And now I'm back in our little hub area. So the hub is the center point, and it's got multiple areas connected to it, each one having their own little activities and stuff that you can finish off. So if I wanted to explore now, I could come down here. Now that I've got the key, this pot will open up. I can come over here, and maybe there's a collectible, maybe there's something else that's important, some heavy lore drop, who knows what you want to put in here. But it's not the continuation of the story that I need. Maybe it's a upgrade to my permanent HP, but it's not the battery I needed. So I've got this hub area, and now I've taken 2 different paths. Now I'm going to take a 3rd path. So if I come through here, I notice that I can look around, it's like, okay, so this is different. I can come over here, and it's like, oh, I'm back in the hub. But I come over here, and now there's something different. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. I got the battery I need. Then you would go all the way back, of course, or you would have another path that kind of opens up, or an ability that they can use to get back down there to the hub area. So now I've got the battery, I would be able to come over here, and I'd be able to finish. So that's just a very simplified version of Hub World. You got the little center area, and you got the activities that can be completed around it. So yeah, the Hub World, Hub and Spoke are really useful levels to keep in mind for different projects. Each one of these can be used to do numerous types of games. There are thousands and thousands of games out there these days, and these 5-level design structures that I've shown you right now, they're used in a fair amount of them. Network has the multiplayer levels of Halo, Blood Gulch, Reflection, Spire, a couple of them from Reach, and that gives an example of your network, everything converges together and connects to that one point. So you got the 2 spots here, you can go up here, but they both will eventually curve back and lead to that center area. So that's a couple examples of linear for wide linear. A couple examples of network for wide linear. A couple of fantastic examples would be games like Doom. If you look at Doom, there's a set goal that you have to go through, but there's also distinct separate little paths you can take that don't exactly affect the story, but give you extra collectibles and a bunch of other stuff like that you can go through and get. For parallel levels, I've said it before, Dark Souls is a fantastic example, Elden Ring. One of the most well-known ones would be Skyrim, how there's multiple endings to the game. It all leads to the same area, but it ends differently based on what you've done. The Witcher, Mass Effect 2, there's numerous amounts of games that use parallel levels. For wide linear, it's more of games like Doom and such that allow you to explore a straight area, but there's collectibles and stuff that you can do. Hub and Spoke, Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order are both hub and spoke. You have a main little area you go to, but they almost every single path eventually leads you back to that hub in the end. So yeah, these are a couple of examples of level structures that are extremely important to keep an eye on. If you want to examine old games, I've talked about this before in the comments a long while ago, and it's noclip.website. So noclip.website is something that I learned from when I was working at a studio. And you could look at games like Pikmin and all sorts of other games that have been made a long time ago. So this is the Pikmin game. This is Awakening. There we go. So Valley of Repose. you'll see the little areas. Here's where your ship lands and your Pikmin's little ships land. And then you travel through and you have to go through all the little events. So here's your hub, and then you can take this path. It comes over here. Everything gets brought back to your little hub. So you can go here, and then you can take this path, and it'll eventually lead you back over there. So a little bit of hub and spoke going on here, because you can go back over here and come on down. Eventually you have to come back. So yeah, these are very important things to know. Like I said, noclip.website is all it's called. And there's so many games you can examine. Here's Skyward Sword. But yeah, this would be a hub world, and almost every hub world is a little hub and spoke. You go over there, you can fly, you go around, it brings you back to the center area. It's a perfect example right here. There's the staircase right there. You go on up, you can do everything over here. When you come on down, it brings you right back on back where you were. So yeah, I really wanted to talk about this because people were asking me a couple of different types of level structures and designs. So I wanted to go through and talk about these. The reason that these are important is they allow us to keep in mind what type of level we're doing, the structure to it, and whether we want to stick to a type of structure that is more straightforward and story based, or what can we look at to really open up the world a bit more, but still keep it constrained enough for smaller teams or more straightforward, focused projects, just stuck on the story, but still giving that exploration like Doom does. With all that being said, I really hope you all learned something from this video. I hope that it inspires you on your levels and gives you ideas on some things to look at, on how you're structuring it, and I really hope you have a good day.